So you want to learn flute. So do I. First thing you should know is what the flute's made out of, like what parts put together. This is the head joint. It's conical. It's the part that you blow into. It goes into the body. You see, this is the main part that you use most of your fingers on. You slide it in just like that. This is, you would hold it with your left hand, just like that. And then on this end, you attach the foot joint. The foot joint has a few additional keys that you use with your right hand. In terms of proper posture, you basically just sit up as if you were about to stand. Look straight forward. And then with your hands, left hand goes first, and then right hand second. Get a better angle of this. Your left hand pointer finger doesn't go on this key, it goes on this one. And then instead of your middle finger going on the key immediately next to it, it goes to the one after it. And then your ring goes next to that, and then your pinky is used for this. Your right hand, it's no fancy spaces, it's just these three down. And then your pinky on this key, or these two keys, but more often than not it will be used on this key. When you're holding the flute, there should really only be 4 points of contact that your skin is actually touching besides the keys themselves. There's the base of your left index finger, which should be about right there on the flute, arched over next to the first key. Then you have your right thumb, which is the only finger that doesn't hit any keys for any notes. It should be about here to allow the rest of the instrument to support itself. The other point is your right pinky, which is down on this key for almost every note with 2 exceptions. And the fourth and final piece of contact is your chin, or your mouth, when you're blowing into the instrument. To create the proper embouchure for that fourth point of contact, it's a small hole, think almost like a frown. Put it up against your chin, not into your, not like that, not like that. Just at the base of your chin, like this, and then you just blow into the hole at an angle. Like that. Now the embouchure is the actual amount of your lips and pushing the corners forward and all that, but the aperture is just the hole itself, and the aperture will go a long way in tone production. If you're sharp or if you're flat, how do you adjust? Well, if you can notice, my flute head joint is pushed in all the way. Typically you don't want to do that. What you want to do is push it out a little bit, because then you have a little bit of space to adjust. If you need to pull out more, you can. If you need to pull in, you're able to. But if you're pushed in all the way and you need to push in more, there's really nowhere you can go. So it should be out about that much, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And then there's stuff you can do besides this, such as your airspeed. If you're blowing slowly, the pitch will probably be low, so you should probably push the air faster. This will also cause the note to jump the octave. If you're speeding too fast and you need to play the lower note, you should probably decrease the speed, but while keeping good tone. In terms of tuning, you can use a tuner. But if you need to just make sure that your instrument isn't completely out of tune, you use this. It's called a tuning rod. How you use it is, take the head joint, take the tuning rod, and you insert this end into the flute. And on this end, there's a little groove. And when you insert it into the flute, the groove should be in the middle of the hole. There's a piece of cork on this end, which is adjustable. And if the groove is not in the center of the hole, then you need to adjust the cork. Otherwise, there's nothing you can really do to keep the flute in tune. Now, there's more you can do with this tuning rod than simply tuning, because you can also clean your instrument with it. Typically, you get a handkerchief or a cloth. Take your tuning rod, the other end, and you feed the cloth in like it's a sewing needle. Like this. And then you wrap it over itself. That way no metal's showing. Like that. And then you just feed it through the flute after you're done playing. Because you don't want your saliva and sugars to build up inside the flute, because then it's going to degrade over time. You want to prolong the life of your flute. And make sure you do this after each time you play, and then make sure you put it back in its proper place in its case. Speaking of prolonging the life of your flute, one thing that can lead to poor quality is leaks. Let's look at just the foot joint for a second. You see, these pads, when you push them down, they create a vacuum. That's how the tone gets produced. But if there's a leak, it won't close completely, which means the note won't come out. So if you need to determine if there's a leak or how to fix the leak, here's what you do. Take your hand, put the joint in question, either the foot or the body, into your hand, and then start sucking. Just kidding. You gotta cover up all the holes and then start sucking. This creates a vacuum. If you suck without covering the holes, you're just gonna keep getting air. But you have to cover the holes to make sure that you're not getting any new air. See? If you're covering all the holes and the foot joint or the body joint is in your hand and you can feel air coming in, then there's a leak. And then the best way to determine that leak is to use a leak detector. You can make this with a pencil and a little bit of tape or the little tags they have in cassette tapes. You cover the joint, feed the tape in, and you pull it out. And depending on how hard it is to pull it out, it can tell you if there's a leak. And then you can go to a professional repairman and get that fixed. But let's say you're in tune and there are no leaks. Now you can start actually playing your instrument. Now, flute ain't easy. And some might be saying, are there alternate fingerings? Because the clarinet has alternate fingerings. So does the saxophone. So does the oboe. And so does the bassoon. The flute also has alternate fingerings. But not that many. In fact, there's really only one. And it's the middle B flat. You typically would play that with 1 and 1, and then the thumb key. So your pointer finger in your left hand, pointer finger in your right hand, and then your left thumb. But an alternate fingering is your pointer finger and just your thumb, but on a separate key. Where am I looking? This is the key you would normally press, but this is the alternate. And those are both with your left thumb. And that's really the only alternate fingering on the flute, which is surprising because every other woodwind instrument has like a billion. Speaking of other instruments, you might be saying, what brands should I get? You know, what if my kid really wants to play flute? What brand should I use? Well, shouldn't use anything Chinese. It's just not reliable. If you're starting off and you need a student model, you know, there's a whole list worth. You can get stuff like Armstrong, Pearl, Yamaha. What is this? This is like a Meinhardt. Those are all very reliable. If you want to step up, you should use a Burkhardt or an Amadeus. Maybe one of those. Really, most music stores have reliable brands. I wouldn't go into a Walmart and buy a flute. Go to a trusted music store. Don't go on eBay or Craigslist unless you get approval from your private instructor. And then once you get a reliable brand, you can begin to play the flute. And that's all you need to know about playing the flute.